Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In yesterday's video, we covered the average net worth of an individual based on their age. So if you didn't check out that one, make sure to check it out right after this one. But in today's video, we're going to be covering a very similar topic with the average income of an individual based on their age. Make sure to stay tuned. At the end of the video, I'll give you some tips or some ideas on how people nowadays might be able to improve their income level with just a few quick tips and tricks. As with yesterday's video, I made these graphs that you can see on your screen right now to make this info a little bit more digestible. Starting out with the 25-year-olds, we're going to be going 25, 35, 45, all the way up to 65, and hopefully that will give you something to compare to. But starting out with the 25-year-olds, you can see that the average individual is making just $40,000 a year. This makes a lot of sense for people that are likely freshly out of college with sort of entry-level jobs. The 75th percentile, if you're a little bit above average, might be making closer to $60,000, and the top 1% is already making $170,000 a year. This is likely significantly drawn up by people that have already started businesses and such things that would lead them to have a way higher than average income. Moving on to the 35-year-olds, you likely pretty quickly notice the difference with that top 1%, and I'll give you my reason for why I think that jumped up so quickly here in just a second. But you can see those in the 25th percentile are still making just $30,000 a year. Your average person is up over that 50 grand hump, and the 75th percentile is approaching $100,000 of income per year. One important thing to keep in mind too is that this is for individuals. This is not for household data. We'll get to that at the end of the video as well, so make sure to stay tuned. But that top 1%, why did it jump up to 420,000 when the other one was just over 100,000 in just 10 years? That is likely because those who went to graduate school, people like doctors, lawyers, are now done with school and into their full-time job, making that top 1% number jump a whole bunch. Keeping it going right here with those in their 40s, with the average 45-year-old making still just over $55,000 a year. A little bit below average might be closer to $30,000, and a little bit above is ever closer to that $100,000 a year mark. The top 1% has slowed down a little bit, but still up there at almost $650,000 per year. It's really crucial for these individuals, those in the top 1% of income, that they're doing this at such a young age. We'll see later on that this actually drops down pretty quickly, and I'll share with you my reason for why I think that might be. But a little hint is the fact that they're able to make that much money at such a young age. Moving on to those that are in their 50s, here at the 55-year-old averages, you can see your average 55-year-old is making just over $60,000 a year. If you're a little below average, you're down at $33,000, and that 75th percentile has jumped that 6-digit mark and made it up to $101,000 per year. Now here is where you can see what I was just talking about with that top 1%. We actually saw the average come down to $450,000 a year, and you might wonder why, when you would expect people to sort of be peaking with their amount of income at 55 years old as they approach retirement. But the reality is that those that were in that top 1% were likely there from a young age, from their 30s, 40s, already making $400,000 to $600,000 a year, meaning that a lot of those higher earners have likely already retired by 55 years of age, pulling down that top 1% average a little bit back down to the mid 400,000 mark. Moving right along to our last age group here with the 65-year-olds, I just want to point out something important. At the end of the day, it's not super important what your average income is of you as an individual. What's more important is that you're willing to live within the means of that income, whether that be $600,000 or whether that be $30,000, as long as you're comfortable living within your means and not just putting yourself into debt to live above what your actual income allows. At the end of the day, we'll all be okay. But getting into the numbers here, you can see your average 65-year-old is making right around $60,000, a little bit below average, $35,000, and that 75th percentile stayed pretty even at around $100,000 per year. Once again, that top 1% stayed stable at $400,000-ish per year, assuming that a lot of those top earners by 65 years of age have already retired. They're already enjoying the fruits of their labors, and so that pulls down that average a little bit once again. As we go ahead and move on to the average household income instead of the average individual income, and right before we move on to a couple tips and tricks that might help you improve your income, go ahead and go down to the comment section down below and put some things that you've learned or some things that you're doing to increase your household income to get you to that level to where you feel comfortable. Maybe we can learn from each other and implement some of the ideas of some of the other members of this community. Going into the average household income, this is not split up at all by age, and so that's something to keep in mind for sure, especially if you're on the younger end of those age categories. This is including people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that already have stable, fully grown adult jobs. You can see the average household, however, in the United States brings in right around $75,000. A little below average would bring in just over $35,000, and that 75th percentile is at around $130,000 per year, with the top 1% of all age groups being just under $600,000 each year. Now let's go ahead and go over a couple of simple things that you could do to try to increase that average yearly salary. The first thing that we're going to talk about is job hopping. You might hear that and think that it's a bad thing to not be loyal to your job, to your employer. However, in today's day and age, this is something that's normal and something that is somewhat expected. And I think this little article by LinkedIn does a good job at explaining it. Particularly these bullet points here at the bottom of your screen are super good. You can see, like I was saying, this is more acceptable than it was in the past, and that it can indeed lead to a higher salary number. This is obviously the main reason why you'd want to do it. However, it also can just lead you to having a fresh start, sort of different things to do, different places to be that could be good for your mental state. Obviously, though, this isn't just something that you should be doing randomly or something that you should be doing all the time, because if your resume is showing that the only companies that you work for last for 6 months to a year, that's not going to be a good look, and it's likely going to be something that you have to explain to the person that's considering hiring you. This also doesn't become necessary at all if you take another one of my tips into mind, and that is the idea of asking for a raise. Now, I read something the other day that said that every 2 to 3 years, you should be asking for a 10 to 20% raise. You might not actually get the 10 to 20%, but that at this point is considered an acceptable starting point when applying for or pleading for a raise from your employer. Now, obviously, you want to do this respectfully and understand their point of view as well, but if this doesn't work out and if they're not willing to continue to move you up, you have to move on and you have to look into your options with other companies. Now, another possible way to increase your income is to have a job other than your current job. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean go get another part or another full-time job, but rather to add a side hustle to your current income stream. Now, on your screen right now, you can see 25 ideas from Shopify, but there is all sorts of different ways that people are making money nowadays. Just give it a little Google search, and I promise you, you'll find something for you. Going off of this list right now, you can see that the number one way is to monetize a YouTube channel. I can tell you from personal experience, this is not the best side hustle, especially at the early stages. We don't make anywhere near as much money as a lot of y'all probably think we do. However, it does add a little bit of change. You can also see things like becoming a rideshare driver, being an Uber or a Lyft driver. That's a super easy one for a lot of people. At the end of the day, it's just whatever fits into your schedule, whatever you think wouldn't add too much stress to your additional job, but would add a little bit of extra cash into your wallet. And the final tip that I have to increase your income, something that all of you are likely already doing, is to keep investing. Whether you're young or whether you are already in retirement, this is key to continue to supplement your income. I hope you did go on to enjoy today's video. I hope you learned something new. Once again, make sure to leave in the comment section down below any tips or tricks that you have that you might want to share with everyone else. While you're down there, subscribe so you don't miss any more videos like this one. But other than that, we'll see you in the next one.